I'm going to concentrate just on this one topic because, like risk return and the pathways and a few other topics, it's a topic that has worked in this relationship. Any relationship is going to generate outcomes that one side thinks is valuable and the other side thinks is boring or irrelevant, and we hope that a certain significant proportion of our work has really useful outcomes. It's the nature of research. We can't tell where it's going to head, we can't tell what it's going to produce. If we could tell, it wouldn't really be research. That's what makes it exciting. This is one that's worked. Primarily the brainchild of Mike Nunn and Jeff Grossell on the DAF side. On our side, Aidan Lyon gets to play in this field and I get to do a little bit. But there's a very large group of people in DAF, and these are their names, who contribute substantially and have a focus and an interest on the gathering of biosecurity intelligence. And I'm going to talk about three particular arms: intelligence software, professional networks, and foresight. The idea is to gather information that allows the department to look over the horizon, to identify things that aren't yet in the newspapers, that haven't really bothered people in the general public or even in parts of industry, that allow us to detect, intervene and remediate problems before they become serious issues. And this is a way of providing even greater leverage, even better bang for our buck when we come to managing risks. Now, there are a bunch of tools that have been developed for this, and they're variously developed in different disciplines to different extents. It's one of the interesting things about risk analysis. Different disciplines sort of get onto something and make it run, and it's part of the job to keep looking between disciplines for advances, ideas, developments that you can port across to other areas, and that's one of the advantages of having an outside group assisting an organisation like DAF. Intelligence software, best developed for human diseases and animal diseases. You may remember in the newspapers a few months back, Google claimed to have detected the outbreak of an influenza epidemic a couple of weeks before the epidemiologists detected, and whose job it was to detect these things, were able to detect the outbreak of these diseases. That's the sort of thing we're thinking about. There is software that we have designed that is crawling across your website as we speak. It's inside your phone right now, looking around, seeing what it can find. I'm sure that'll make you feel comfortable. And I'm sure we're not alone in doing this. In fact, I know we're not. And these web crawlers and related bits of software are looking for relevant information. The problem isn't finding information. There is a huge amount of electronically available information out there, accessible in different ways. The idea is to find it and to apply an appropriate filter that generates a signal that is relevant and that you can act on. And you want to avoid overlooking things that matter, and you want to avoid flagging things that end up not mattering. So it's like epidemiology. It's a bit like trying to minimise your false positive and your false negative rates when you come with a disease diagnosis. It's about trying to maximise the information content of this stuff that comes towards you. And that's been a lot of fun. There's a bunch of packages you can pull off the shelf. As I said, they're well developed for human and animal diseases. They're not well developed for marine ecosystems and marine pests and diseases and fisheries. They're not well developed for plants, for plant pests, for crops and related things. And so we had to get our hands dirty writing software, and we recruited an enthusiast, Jeff Grossell, who is a very keyed-in younger person in, he maybe not that young, I'm not sure actually, in the marine area in DAF, and Aidan Lyon, who's a mixture of mathematics and philosophy, and these two together have created a system that you can get onto. It is at the moment called marinehealth.org, although that's going to change, and you can, if you've got your iPhone, you can key in and go and have a look right now, and go looking for diseases of the marine environment, and you'll find some. It provides an updated list. It allows you, the most interesting thing is it allows you to tune the filters so that the signals that you get are relevant to your workplace and your understanding of the problems. This is part of a larger fabric of what we call foresight. I'm going to come to that as the third point. So the software, there's a bunch of these things: Google FluTrans, GFIN, ProMed, HealthMap, EpiSpider, bunch of things that have somewhat similar architecture. They have different features, they do things in slightly different ways. Some are free, some are not. Some are developed by government, some are developed by hospitals, some are developed by groups of enthusiasts, universities and so on. We've explored these, as has DAF, through other consultancies, and in the animal health area has decided on a platform and a template for doing this work, and there are some very good people in DAF who are doing this now. On the marine pests and plant diseases side, DAF has written its own material and now, I suppose, is at the forefront of this kind of initiative globally and could continue to be so if it continues to invest in this area. Biosecurity intelligence is the second strand of what we're calling overall the Foresight project or the Biosecurity Intelligence project. We have professional networks. And if you talk to some of our older colleagues, they'll say, I don't need a software package. I can ring up Bill. And Bill will just tell me because Bill knows a lot of stuff and Bill's antenna is up. And that's probably right. Experts, professionals, when they're appropriately questioned, do have relevant information and it is not accessible to all and they're efficient in accessing it. They go to meetings, they talk to people, they read documents, they're aware of what's going on around them and they often detect problems well before the newspapers or government or official bodies find them. And so they're disseminated along professional networks. And if your professional network is efficient, you'll learn about those things. Well, if this is really as valuable as we superficially at least think it is, we ought to understand it. And this project is about mapping the professional networks that inform us about a particular important set of diseases and pests. So we know who are the linchpins, who are the gateways to information, who are the information sources, who are the information sinks. We want to know if one individual in your organisation gets sick and takes a month off, are you blind for a month from diseases and pests that might arrive on your doorstep that you could have intervened and acted on had this person been present? The sensitivity of those networks to the participants and building in some redundancy into those networks and, in fact, encouraging the right kinds of information flows in those networks are very achievable social goals. So this work involves social scientists and psychologists from the University of Melbourne, Professor Pip Patterson and Eric Quintain from Switzerland are working with us to map the social networks that govern the information flows about pests and diseases. We will learn about those structures and then broaden that understanding and we don't know what we'll find yet. We're on a project of discovery. Lastly, foresight. Foresight is about providing a mindset that allows you to understand the signals that you receive. One of the things that we've learned from risk analysis in general is that someone can tell you something critical and if you don't get it, you just don't get it. Think about launching a rocket that has a leaky O-ring. When we look backwards through time, we can say, oh, if we just listened to that engineer who was a member of that consultancy who was telling us in very plain language, there's a problem if you launch this rocket when it's too cold, we could have avoided a disaster. We simply didn't have the right mindset to understand what it is we were being told. That's what foresight's about. It's about creating a mindset that allows an organisation to have a mindset that allows it to anticipate, to see and understand and act appropriately on emerging threats and diseases. So it's a kind of a philosophical abstraction, and it works around facilitated workshops that provide a common way of thinking about emerging threats, diseases, problems of various kinds in an organisation. They can be structural, they can be biological. There's no limit to what this kind of work can do. A bunch of tools that go with this. Some of you will be familiar with scenario planning. It's one of those tools that's more widely disseminated in business. Hindcasting, backcasting are other tools that are sometimes used in various places. The whole body of these tools is called Foresight. And this is a group of people who have been participating in a Foresight workshop. A bunch of vets mainly in this instance. It was led by a fellow by the name of Sohail Inatullah, who's quite a skilled facilitator in Foresight work, but there are a number of these people around who can help us do this work. Those last three slides give you a snapshot of some of the work we're doing, what it hopes to achieve, and I would love to be able to give you the same kind of detail about all these other things. Don't have the time. If you want to talk to me about them, I'd love to at any time. Thank you very much.